Time up. Deep right field. Down the line it goes. Castellanos is out of room. It's out of room. Runner goes. 3-2 pitch hit down the line. Is it fair? It is a fair ball. Into the corner. Off and running. Chu. Yu Chang around third. He's going to score easily. And into second. Hit hard. Hit deep. Up and out. Goes Amed Rosario. And there's a fly ball. Left field. It's deep. It's up. It's gone to the porch. Deep left center field, it is gone to Souvenir City.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Guardians of the CLE podcast. I'm your host, Max Goldstein, joined as always by my co-host, Mel Kirby. And tonight's episode is brought to you by our sponsors, Rally House and SeatGeek. With your first purchase on SeatGeek, you can get a promo code for 20% off your first purchase using the promo code BELIEVELAND, BELIEVLAND. You get 20% off your first purchase. But we're going to roll right into it now, Mel, for tonight's podcast. We got a nice win out of that Yankees series, but I'm sure a lot of viewers and listeners were hoping we'd be doing better on yesterday's July 4th doubleheader. Dropping 2 against the Tigers kind of just brings us back those flashbacks from the last couple of weeks of baseball where we've been underperforming. And I don't know how much more there is to say on that, but I wanted to hear what your thoughts were after watching that doubleheader yesterday.
Yeah, so it appears that 11-10 comeback win they had in Minnesota on June 22nd, it's almost like it broke the entire offense. Since then, they've scored more than 3 runs only 3 times in a 14-game stretch. And I think it starts with Jose Ramirez, whether it's his thumb, whether he's just slumping hard. The bottom line is he's hitting .224 with a .328 slugging and 11 strikeouts. And very rarely have I seen him chase so many balls out of the zone that he has been. And, you know, maybe him and Tito have both said this week that the thumb is fine. It's not bothering him. So it could just be he's trying to do too much, put the whole team on his back, and he's popping balls up and he's swinging at pitches he doesn't normally swing at. And you can't really blame him because the guys behind him aren't doing much of anything themselves. Besides Franmil getting a little hot and Josh Naylor doing Josh Naylor things, you have Ernie Clement, 1 for his last 19. He's down to a 186 average with a 244 OBP and a 212 slugging percentage. You have Owen Miller, 5 for his last 40. That's a 125 average with only a 182 on base percentage and a 125 slugging percentage. And Miles Straw, who over his last 28 days is hitting 118, 11 for 93 with a 212 OBP and a 151 slugging percentage. And even guys like Andres Jimenez, who have kind of been carrying this club over his last 7 days, he's only hitting 160 with 5 strikeouts. So there's a lot to unpack there, and it's probably going to be like the whole beginning of this episode is like a vent session because there are just too many gaping holes in this lineup right now. And I saw something interesting someone on Guardian's Twitter had earlier that, you know, how long can we deal with a 46% strikeout rate from Franmil Reyes? And my answer was we could deal with the high K rate as long as his power's there, as long as we cover up the holes. You can't have an offensive hole at catcher, center field, and first base half the time when Naylor's not playing first. That's too many holes in this lineup, and it's starting to have a 2021 feel. The team that got no hit 3 times, that you're just praying they get a single when it's the 5th inning, and they have 1 hit through 5 innings. It's like, you know, I know a young team is going to go through those peaks and valleys. We're going to have the ups and downs, but what blows my mind is just 2 weeks ago, June 22nd, I had faith this team could come down from any deficit, and no deficit was too big for these kids. But now it's like 2-1 is too much. I'm chalking it up as an L, and we saw that yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of numbing, right? We only go back a couple weeks to where, you know, this team was winning 17 out of their last 21 games. You know, the offense is averaging over 5.5 runs per game. You know, the pitching is fantastic, but you know, transition into the last couple of weeks of ball where we can't even score 4 runs, and Zach Plesac, who we tend to rip on sometimes, but give him credit where it's due. He has to take another loss after going out there pitching, 6 innings, giving up 2 runs and a couple hits. It's like, give the guy a break. And we just can't do that offensively in general when he's on the mound. But I mean, these last couple weeks have just been infuriating if you watch as closely as we do.
Yeah. And I know I've been saying it for weeks now, and you and I differed at the time, but yeah. I'm so done with Miles Straw right now. Like, not only is it his bat, like we read off his stats, anybody with 2 eyes who watches the games knows he's not getting it done at the plate.
Right.
But now it's like it's starting to carry into his body language, and it's starting to carry into running the bases. Why you didn't slide
twice,
yeah, on the steal and then also coming home? What are you doing? Like, what? I don't know about you, but even playing softball, I was always taught, when in doubt, slide.
Yeah, like anytime slide.
Anytime, just slide. There's no reason to go in there looking goofy, standing up, and you get tagged out on the hip. I mean, it ended up not mattering, but it kind of did, because
it changes the part of the game. It could have been 2-2 going into those later end of the innings, but now we're looking at a deficit of 3-1, and then 4-1, and then 5-1. Right?
Tito, if it were 2-2 after that Naylor homer, Tito handles the bullpen differently, right? We probably don't see Karen Jack, and it's those things that's starting to bother me. And I don't know if he feels like he's safe because of the contract he signed. And realistically, he probably is. They're probably going to keep running him out there just because this team values defense so much. But where I stand on it is that gritty guy in New York that was going to jump in the stands for his teammates. Like, that gritty guy is who we need. That guy who's bunting for base hits, getting on base, and using his speed. But we haven't had that guy in over a month. It's been probably 6-7 weeks that we've seen this. And like I kind of just mentioned, we know we have the hole at catcher. That's fine. They handle the pitching staff. I'm not so quick to complain about catcher.
Right.
Owen Miller is another one I'll get to in a minute. But Miles Straw, he's a guy who his replacement is still tearing the cover off the ball in Will Brennan. Not only is he still leading the minors in batting average, he's bumped it up to 375. He's slugging .528. He's got 13 doubles, 30 ribbies, 8 steals, and almost as many walks as strikeouts, 20-23. Miles Straw's only saving grace right now might be that he's not on the 40-man roster right now. It might be buying Miles some time. And to be clear, I'm not saying demote Miles Straw. I'm not talking about sending him to Columbus. But again, I'm going to there's a reason he was a 4th outfielder in Houston, and he did it really well. He was a very, very good 4th outfielder, and he's got all the tools that you would want in your 4th outfielder. Like, Palacios is great off the bench in his timely hitting. Straw would be great off the bench late in games for his elite defense and his speed. But we need more. We need something out of, you can't just have automatic outs in the bottom 30 of your lineup. We saw how that went last year.
We saw how that went last week. It's been a pretty rough ride this season for Miles Straw. You brought up that Yankees series where he was coming to the protection of Steven Kwan, Oscar Mercado. But I mean, look, even the day after, we expected him to have some sort of revenge game, and I think he whiffs out a couple times at the plate, doesn't do really much. So as neither did the team. But like Miles Straw, he did sign that 5-year extension with us. It's going to keep him here for a long time. And I was reading some things on Twitter this past week about calling Will Brennan up, and we say this almost weekly on the podcast. We trust in Chernoff, Antonetti, our front office, to do what this team needs to get done in order to succeed. And if they felt like calling Will Brennan up was the right move, it would have been done already. I'm not second guessing anybody. I'm not thinking that I'm smarter than our front office with, the payroll that they have has kept us as competitive as we have been in the last decade. Like, it really just needs to come down to Chris Valaika and Miles Straw going out for a golf outing and talking about what his mindset is at the plate, or, why he's finding these struggles and his lack of hitting the other way, just trying to slap it. It's just got to get down to the basics of, what a hitter needs to be in the majors that's keeping him in the slump.
And I think too, it goes to another thing that this team was desperate for a right-handed bat. Like Oscar Gonzalez went down, and in their minds, they felt they had to replace him with a right-handed bat. The problem with Will Brennan and Nolan Jones, they both hit from the left side.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to clear a 40-man spot, obviously, to call back Oscar Mercado to claim him off waivers. And it's frustrating because Oscar Mercado has shown pretty much since 2019. He had a phenomenal 2019 batting behind Francisco Lindor. Ever since then, it's been downhill. And he's shown like, yeah, he may hit from the right side of the plate, but doesn't matter if you're not hitting righties, you're not hitting lefties, you're not hitting batting practice, basically. Why not bring up a lefty guy who has really good lefty splits, actually? Like people forget Stephen Kwan and Andres Jimenez are towards the top of our team and batting average against left-handed pitching. So it's like, I think Tito gets this team, baseball, maybe even in general, gets so wrapped up in analytics and these platoons and righty lefty matchups that just let them play baseball. It's like Ernie Clement last night came in to pinch hit for Richie Palacios in a crucial spot late in the game. I think the 8th inning or 6th inning. And he hits into a double play, grounds out in the 9th. Then the only option there, like they got to take Tito's toy away. Like you can't be in the lineup with slugging and OBPs under 200. Your batting average is getting towards the 100 mark. And we've said this, he's an amazing guy. He goes back and forth with guys on Twitter, and I think it's awesome. And I'm never going to root for a guy to lose their job, but why not go work on some things in Columbus? Because honestly, right now, Owen Miller could step into that utility spot and he can play first base. That's what's keeping Owen up here. Is we saw Naylor tweak the back yesterday. He's in the lineup tonight, which thank God.
Good to see. Yeah.
But he's the only other first baseman. There's no one else right now on the roster who could play first base. And that's why I'm wondering if we're going to see Nolan Jones start to get some more reps at first, just to have a body that you could call up.
Yeah, I could understand that. And then when you mean still on the straw segment, we were just wrapping up here, but not to get off topic. It sort of, a little bit reminds me of what was happening with Bobby Bradley, like with our front office, not calling him up. He's hitting what seems like every hit is a home run, deep over the fences. And it's really just more of like these guys know what they're doing and they're going to make the right moves when they're supposed to and when they feel they need to. And that rolls right into Ernie Clement. You just mentioned how Josh Naylor is really the only real solidified first baseman on this team. Sure, can Franmil Reyes take a couple reps there if need be, I guess, right? But, I'd rather him out in left or right field if that's the case, if he's not DHing. But then, I think Owen Miller is strictly up here because of Ernie Clement's, struggles at the major league level. He would have already been the guy that's already on the hook, Owen Miller, right? With the performance he's put up over the last 2.5, 3 weeks, like he would be in Ernie Clement's position. And it has me wondering, we have guys up here like Richie Palacios and Gabriel Arias, and obviously Andres Jimenez has solidified his spot within this roster this year, but has me thinking, why is Ernie still on this team? What does Tito see in him that he can actually bring to the ballpark every day as an advantage for the team, right? He can go out there. He's a great face in the dugout, and he's great on Twitter with the fans. And, he even, waved to a couple of fans while I was out there at the Yankees game that we were mentioning earlier on in the podcast. But if you come up to the plate every single time and every single Guardians fan watching you is saying this isn't going anywhere, you're not even going to draw a walk, things need to start circulating in that dugout and within Tito's office being why is he still here? Yeah. Either that or Chris Valaika needs to do the same thing with him that he's going to do with Miles Straw to get these things right, or we're definitely not going to be seeing one over the other for much longer.
Yeah, and that's kind of I think that might be the next move. How long can you keep both these guys on the roster? It would be different if one had the great glove, one had the great bat. But right now it's Owen's got a bad glove, bad bat. Ernie's got a horrible bat and a good glove.
Right.
But they got to stop putting him in left field too. That's not that shouldn't be a thing. Like, he's
No.
not a left fielder. I appreciate the grit and willing to do whatever it takes. Obviously, he's like our position player who pitches, which isn't
Right.
like a flex, because that sucks. We even have to use you.
Yeah.
But you just start to wonder, like, we have kind of too many guys who can do the same things. Like, even Richie, like, big Richie fan over here, but like, he's even slumping lately, and he does not look great in left field. Like, and again, he's young, so I would 100% much rather give him ABs in left field over Ernie Clement, just because of like the potential that's there. But again, this offseason, there's a whole nother round of 40-man decisions that need to be made. And like, for how long are you going to keep so many of the same type of players on the roster when you got this next wave of guys that you got to add? It's like last season, off season all over again. And this season's always been process over results. And these same guys right now, we're complaining about, Owen Miller was instrumental in us being hot early in the season. He was batting cleanup, once Franmil went down. So I'm not saying he hasn't played an integral role at times. He's just not consistent enough to where he should be getting fairly regularly at bats. I think it would even do him, a good service to let him just take the pressure off, go down to AAA, get consistent every day at bats, and kind of work on those mechanical things that have been evading him these last few weeks.
A thought just popped into my mind, and it's, I think it might catch you off. It might catch you a little off guard, but I was thinking with Jose Ramirez, his current struggles, right? The possibility of an injury there that everybody's covering up. Is Ernie Clement on this roster strictly to play third base when Jose isn't available? Because if you think about it, there aren't that many options we can just throw into the hot corner there. And Ernie's got that experience. Is that why he's potentially fielding this lineup every day?
Potentially, but that's also why I thought the call up on before Saturday's game, calling up Gabriel Arias was questionable. Right. Because an outfielder went on the injured list. They called up an infielder, which had everybody like, oh my God, is Jose going on the IL? Or maybe Ernie Clement's going to get sent down and they're going to give Gabriel Arias his reps, let Jose DH. But then they sent Gabriel Arias down in between games 1 and 2 yesterday, which is weird because we're seeing it. They're not calling up Jones and Brennan until they can give them those consistent at-bats. They don't want to call them up to sit on the bench. And they're kind of moving Gabriel Arias back and forth a little bit this year, which is interesting because it kind of goes against what they do organizationally. So I kind of thought he might stick around a while for what you just mentioned to kind of because man, does he have a cannon. Watching him throw from third to first is such a treat. And so I kind of thought, okay, maybe they're going to run him out there and let him see. But it was weird because he had missed 8 weeks with the broken hand and was hitting like 190 at Columbus. He didn't even have his bearings under him down there yet. So they sent him back. But Clement's our best glove option, right? Other than Jose, he's the guy who's going to play third base. So you got to wonder if his days are going to be numbered if Jose starts to kind of break out of this and those thumb issues go away.
Yeah, but what kind of keeps me thinking is like we've seen what he has to offer. Sure, is he a great glove? Yeah, and this team historically cares more about defense than what they can do up at the plate. But I really think something that just came to me is the only reason he's on this team because nobody else is going to be able to field that third base position like he can. And that's not a knock on Ernie. It's really just more of like everybody's got to open their eyes and sort of realize, not taking a dig, if Ernie, you do listen to this podcast, which we would be very lucky if you do, but it's just, we got to see something different. It can't just be like this every day, walking in and going 0-4 at the plate. And, you make the solid plays in the infield and sometimes the outfield, but when the team is struggling like this, we're looking at you in a way because you haven't really contributed all that much throughout the year offensively. It's sort of like a negative charge now, right? Like
yeah. At what point they got to start holding up their end of the bargain? Like,
right.
We get it. 18 games in 16 days is a shit ton of baseball. They're tired. I'm sure they're sore. They're banged up. But you're also professional athletes who make a whole lot of money to be the best at what you do, to be ready in situations like that. You just have to find a way Some games you just got to grit out, and it's going to be an ugly game, and you're going to make errors, but you grind out the win. And that's what they were doing for a while. But now it's like everybody's trying to do too much again because they don't trust the guy behind them, because the guy behind them is struggling. And we got to remember the week didn't start off too poorly. You know, they ended up taking, which we're about to get into, but they ended up taking the 5-game series from the Twins. Even though they got blown out last Monday, they won the final 2 games and they took the series. And we felt really good, you know. We felt good being a game back heading into the weekend against New York, and we just can't let it unravel here.
No, tonight is a massive opportunity for us to get back on track. Quantrill, who we're about to get into, who had a phenomenal outing in his last start, is on the bump for us tonight, and he's going up against what looks to be like either a low-end 5th starter for the Tigers or a bullpen guy. So it's going to be a long day out there for the Tigers pitching should we do our job. But let's just track it back to that last win that we were talking about with Quantrill on the mound, right? The offense still wasn't looking great. And the first 3 runs that were scored were on an error and a sac fly. And I remember talking, you know, I think I was speaking with you during that game. Like we were feeling that frustration. Obviously things picked up in the second half of that. But I mean, Quantrill, let's just start there. Let's get on a good note. He was just outstanding, right? And his only blemish was really the back-to-back home runs. They gave off to Kirilloff and Urshela in the 6th, which tied the game to 3. But the way he bounced back, right? You know, giving up those home runs in the 6th, but still going out there, giving us 8 innings strong against, you know, the leading team of the division is, you know, all you're looking for there. You know, and that seems to be a theme amongst some of our pitching, right? They get rattled early, but they still give us those quality 6, 7, and in this case, 8 innings. You know, I'm glad the offense was able to pick it up because that was really one of, you know, people may not agree, that was one of Quantrill's best starts as a major league pitcher.
Yeah. And it's good he did go 8 innings because with the game going to extras, it allowed us to go from Clase straight to Eli Morgan. And I mean, to be fair, Eli Morgan faced the Twins quite a bit the last week, and they were just sitting on his changeup. And we saw the improvement against New York. He was burying that changeup, and he was getting those swings and misses again. So I think with Minnesota, he had just faced them too many times. He did give up the 3 in the 10th, including the 2-run homer to Kepler. And again, the way our offense is going, I thought that one was over. Yeah. But luckily, they had that comeback in them. Rosario doubled, scored the ghost runner in Palacios, made it 6-4 Minnesota. And then the pass ball scored Quan 6-5. And then that's when Josh Naylor hit that awesome opposite field walk-off 2-run homer, the first of his career, headbutted Tito, wanted all the smoke. That was so much fun. And I thought that would jumpstart the offense. I thought they were, with kids, it doesn't take much. I thought that was going to have them off and running again. Yeah.
And you know what? It could be that, you know, we could have been off and running again, but you guessed it, a rain delay. A rain delay has returned to Cleveland, Ohio, right? Raining out that Friday.
Well, wait,
game.
Thursday, we had the Jimenez walk-off.
Oh, whoa. All right. Yeah, that's on me for anybody listening and viewing. Completely skipped that Thursday win, 5-3 win. And it was Shane Bieber, right? Just doing his ordinary thing. And it was tough to you know, to really see this game like slipping away, especially after the win the day prior on that walk-off. Just having Bieber going out there, everybody had all the confidence in the world that we were gonna wrap up that win, and thankfully we did, right? Stephen Kwan had a bases loaded walk to start it all off in the second inning, but then, you know, it stayed 3-1 most of the way until the 8th inning, and that's finally when the Guardians tied it on a Miles Straw infield single, and then Jimenez and Reyes both scored on throwing errors by Correa. But yeah, well, let's get into that game a little bit, right? You know, we were struggling on offense, somehow, you know, find a way to come back 2 straight days. But, you know, I'm wondering what your thoughts are with that consistency, right? It seems like some days we can come back from any deficit, other days we can't even score 2 runs. So, you know, well, where's that coming from?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing to figure out with these guys right now. And it's got to be frustrating for the starters, right? Like you mentioned, Quantrill only had the 1 blemish, the back-to-back homers on Wednesday. Shane Bieber only has the one blemish. In his game Thursday, he gave up that bases clearing double to Jose Miranda in the third. After that, he was lights out. And it's got to be frustrating where these starters feel like they can't even make that one mistake because they don't trust their offense to come back. And they're not going to say that, but that's got to be how they feel, right?
Mhm.
So it's just those ups and downs we're going to have with a young team. And I think that's it, that inconsistency that we just can't explain sometimes. And that's what makes it so frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. And then with Jimenez hitting that walk-off homer, right? It seems to be like that was one of the last times that we
He
really
did
got to
anything.
see. Yeah, exactly. It's
Great celebration by him, though. I'm here for it. I loved every bit of that. Yeah.
hey, look, and
I thought he broke the Twins, but then they kept coming back against Baltimore over the weekend. So
yeah, I mean, if anybody was watching and just listening to those Minnesota broadcasters
it was
after the
great.
second walk-off,
That was
I think
gold.
we've seen enough of the Guardians, and then silence for the next 45 seconds as Jimenez crosses the plate. Mob ensues, right? But that was great. That was great. And then that leads me now into the rain out. That sort of stopped our momentum there, halted it a little bit. Very forgettable 13-4 loss on Friday night, or excuse me, what would have been Friday night, got moved to a doubleheader on Saturday. In the first game, we had Kirk McCarty starting it off against Garrett Cole. Really, really, really didn't do too well. 13-4 loss. Anything to say on that? I mean, we scored 4 runs.
No, I have no clue why he even started to begin with. You could have just pitched Savali, who was the Friday night starter, and then Tristan in game 2. Both could have pitched, kept everyone on schedule.
Mhm.
I don't know what the Guardians' fascination is with having to call up a 6th starter for each doubleheader. It didn't have to work out this way in this one, but we also got James Karinchak. He was activated and optioned to AAA. Obviously, now we know he's with the AAA club, and Tobias Myers DFA'd to make room. Dumb trade in the offseason, but he was worth a flyer, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll just skip through that first end of the doubleheader, that loss there. But in game 2, just another disappointing outing by the Guardians, right? We lost 6-1. Once again, we took a 1-0 lead early on with Rosario's first home run of the season. But Savali was as good as we've seen him, besides for giving up back-to-back solo home runs to Rizzo and Stanton in the 4th. And, when the offense can't really give you more than 1 run, you can't give up anything. So
yeah, it was over from that
day
point.
Altogether. Yeah.
DLS normally is good with inherited runners. He allowed the
Mhm.
inherited runners to score. And, once it gets to 6-1, there's not a chance for a comeback. But again, Yankees are the best comeback team in baseball. And we had 2 leads against them in both games Saturday. So
Wow.
definitely frustrating. But like I said, I expected to win one, and we did.
Little note we got here, a little fact, was Jose Ramirez didn't have the best game that day, and it was the first time that he had struck out 3 times in a game since July 18th of 2021. So it's been nearly an entire calendar year since he's had that 0 for 3 kind of day at the plate with 3 strikeouts. But enough of the talk about all the struggles here. We got that rare win against the Yankees, right? 2-0 on Sunday, and it was probably the most surprising result of any game we're going to see this season. I mean, we put McKenzie out there, who at the time was struggling mightily, and Josh Naylor wasn't playing, Jose Ramirez wasn't playing. I think Franmil was in the lineup, but I'm not exactly sure. I had the Yankees scrapped up in this game, for a win, and give it to Tristan. What a performance, right? Absolutely dominant. 7 innings pitched. He gave up 1 hit, which ended up being the only hit of the game for the New York Yankees, on a bloop single to Josh Donaldson. He gave up a walk, and he struck out 7. And like I was saying, through 7 innings pitched. So that was
good to see Reyes snap out that game. He was the whole offense. That solo homer and RBI single. But how good was the 9th? Clase versus Aaron Judge. Even though he walked him, which I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to give him anything to hit. But your best versus our best. Let's go. Like Tito was saying, he was chewing extra bubble gum. Everybody, but the players weren't nervous. They trust Clase, and just while we're on the topic of him, they trust him for good reason. Why? Right. Because he was named the AL reliever of the month for June. the second time in his career. He had 15 scoreless appearances, converted all 11 of his save ops, was 1-0 with no walks and 16 strikeouts. And fun fact on him, he has not allowed a walk or a run in 16 straight appearances dating back to May 30th. It's the second longest streak in franchise history behind, guess who? Joe Smith's 18-game run from September 18th of 2012 to May 1st of 2013. But in 29 games since 427, Clase has posted a 0.31 ERA and converted 16 save opportunities. The best the best closer in the American League, and it's not close. The best right-handed closer in the game, probably.
Yeah, he's absolutely dominant, right? If you were to track back to that Yankees game, they had bases loaded, 2 outs in the top of the 9th, right? We were trying to close it out. I was fully confident he was going to get the job done. I don't know about you. When the bases were loaded, I was just like, hey,
I wasn't scared.
Try hitting 101 and then follow it up with like a 94-mile-per-hour cutter. Like, good luck, right? And that slider is devastating to those right-handers as well. I mean, he just goes out there and does his job. And is he?
Thank you, Corey Kluber.
Right. Is he underratedly the best closer in baseball right now?
Definitely from the right side. I mean, you only got Taylor Rogers and Josh Hader, who are even in the conversation with him, but they're both left side. So I think I could comfortably say he's the best right-handed closer in baseball.
Yeah, definitely. And just another important thing to note for the games coming up for the Guardians, right? So we heading into the All-Star break, we have 15 straight against the AL Central. So we got Detroit, who we're currently in the middle of right now, Kansas City, and the Chicago White Sox. So the Twins also play the White Sox 7 times. So if the Guardians can find a way to get their get their heads up, start playing good ball again, dust is going to settle again with the Twins and White Sox beating up on each other. We could really make some headway going into this division race after the All-Star break. So just keep an eye out. Might not be all sunny skies right now, but there's definitely some clouds headed over towards Minnesota's way. But let's just, we already went through the disappointing doubleheader yesterday. Let's just roll into what we got on the menu over the next a couple days or so. So tonight, like I was mentioning at the beginning of the pod, we got Cal Quantrill versus Drew Hutchinson. Should the Guardians play good baseball, this is just a wrap it up, nice W tonight, but we'll see. The offense has to pick it up. And then Wednesday, tomorrow we got Shane Bieber during the day versus Michael Pineda, another winnable game, especially against the Tigers. So, what are you thinking about over these next couple games just to wrap up the Tigers series? Got Bieber and Cal. Are these 2 quick W's?
Yeah, just like the end of the Minnesota series, two dubs. We got to split this series. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yeah. And it's also interesting. We face all righties the rest of the week, but they claim Mercado back off waivers. So I was thinking we're facing a couple lefties or something. So I don't think they really needed to panic and claim him back off waivers instead of just rolling with what they had. But everybody calm down. I think he's only here until Ogan comes back off the IL, which they obviously don't think will be very long. So yeah, these are all winnable games.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, just to go further into that, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the weekend series, we got the Kansas City Royals, right? So Friday, it's being led off by Savali versus Brady Singer. Especially with the way both of these guys have been pitching this year, it should be a pretty good matchup.
Yeah.
I'd take the under in that game for anybody who's betting on it. But Saturday, we got Tristan versus Jonathan Holloway. And then Sunday, we wrap it up with Plesac versus Zach Greinke. So, guys, I just listed 5 games that we have the better matchups in, and we should win. And it all comes down to the offense performing, right? These guys are going to give up a lot of runs. It just depends on how much our pitching staff can help out and how many runs we can score. So that, basically wraps it up for this week's podcast episode. And wanted to pass it off to Mel, to take us away. But before I do, once again, this episode was brought to you by SeatGeek and Rally House. With your first purchase on SeatGeek, you can get 20% off using the promo code BelieveLand. But without further ado, I'm just going to pass it off to Mel to take us away here.
Yeah, Phase 2 All-Star voting resumed at noon today. Be sure to vote for Jose and Jimenez, even if they're struggling. And let's go get a W tonight. 7, 8, and 9 in our lineup is Miller, Maley, and Straw. Let's just hope they get a hit. But I hope everyone had a good fourth. And until next week, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Guardians.